NFL Week 12. Just before we go through the score, Joe, what is your feeling right now? What'd you learn from NFL Week 12?
Week 12, right now, I got some risers and fallers. There's some teams that are surging. Teams like the Seahawks are starting to put in a little bit of work. Somebody that's falling is like the Packers. They're at 4-6, talking about maybe firing their coach. They can't understand what's going on with Aaron Rodgers. Broncos had a big win last week. They're surging. The Chargers have an injury. So right now we're kind of looking at things kind of even out, and there's really no lead horses as far as I can see in this wild card race. I mean, you go on a 2 or 3 game losing streak, and that could make or break your season. Cowboys are surging, so it's really interesting to see the landscape right now. The teams we thought might be where they aren't in most cases.
Okay. Monday Night Football, we just kicked off in Houston, rivalry matchup between the Texans and the Titans. Titans off to a fast start here, 10-0. Titans are coming into this game 5-5. Texans are coming in 7-3. Huge games, huge implications in the AFC South. You got that game on? How you working that tonight, Joe?
I have it on. I'm not paying close attention. I'm catching the score kind of as we go, but it is a big deal as far as the divisions are concerned. Houston's trying to get a stranglehold on their playoff aspirations, and Marcus Mariota and the Tennessee Titans are kind of floating in there. He's kind of having some injuries, some off and on weeks, but we're gonna see what they're made of tonight on Monday Night Football.
Hey, you're actually missing out. We have a new monitor in the studio.
Oh,
yeah.
Hold up, the game is on the monitor.
The game's on the monitor.
Oh, boy, high tech. All right, I
GS
guess see
Radio.
when I get back.
GS Radio, we moving up in the world. Stop it.
No doubt.
All right, so the games this week, Thanksgiving week, spread out from Thursday all the way through tonight. So let's start with the Thanksgiving Day games. The Chicago Bears with another victory, 23-16. Wait a minute. My Super Bowl pick, Chicago Bears. I'm running with that. 23-16 over your hometown favorite, Detroit Lions. Lions fall to 4-7. Bears improve to 8-3.
Yeah, I know you like going on a limb, and you're definitely out there with the Bears, but we'll see. What I'll tell you about this game is Detroit missed a golden opportunity to snag a victory on Thanksgiving since Mitch Trubisky was down due to injury. They decided to sit him out because the Thursday game was so close to the previous game last Sunday. But the Lions could not capitalize. Chase Daniel came out, was 27 for 37, 230 yards, threw for 2 touchdowns. On the ground, they didn't really have a lot of help as far as the Bears were concerned, but they did a little damage in the air. With Tariq Cohen, who had a touchdown on 45 yards, Taylor Gabriel had 7 receptions and 49 yards. For the Lions had some injury issues also, but, you know, with the other teams, with the opposing team starting quarterback out, they still should have pulled it out, but couldn't manage to do so. They gave the ball to LeGarrette Blount, who had 19 carries for 88 yards and 2 TDs, but it just wasn't enough because Matt Stafford didn't do much of anything. He had no TDs, had 2 interceptions, and 2 key interceptions by the way in the fourth quarter. And at the end of the day, the Lions took the loss. So if I had to guess as a Lions fan, we are now looking at probably a top 10 pick. And if we can keep losing, it's not looking too good for us in Motown.
What do you think of Chase Daniel? I've always liked him. He's been a career backup. I think he's got some starter potential. What did you think? Obviously, he had an excellent game.
Chase didn't look bad. I mean, he didn't make any mistakes. He had no interceptions. I mean, it only took 4 sacks. That's fairly impressive. I think he can be a serviceable backup. But then again, you really don't know what a person can do until you really hand them the reins. But for that day, I thought he played well. He did what they had to do. He moved the ball, made a couple of big passes when they needed it.
Another huge division matchup. So all three of the Thanksgiving games were division matchups with playoff implications. The big one, the Dallas Cowboys played host to the Washington Redskins, and they came out with the win, 31-23. Obviously, Alex Smith is out for the foreseeable future for the Redskins. Cowboys improved to 6-5. Redskins fall to 6-5.
Man, these two teams are now sitting atop the division. And, of course, Philly's kind of staying close, and then you got the Giants, which we'll talk about them later. But Dallas was fairly impressive. They're definitely surging. Washington's defense is they're not slouches. They have a very good secondary. And Dak came out, and to his credit, I mean, he actually threw the ball downfield. He had 289 yards. He had 2 touchdowns. And most of his damage was done with Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper had 9 targets. We always talk about getting the ball to your best player. He responded with 8 receptions, 180 yards, and 2 TDs.
Wow, that's all. Right,
and then Ezekiel.
That's 2/3. That's 2/3 of Dak's passing yards.
That's it.
And right, and not to mention 8 out of 9 on targets. That's a bell ringer. That's a big bell ringer, because that's a astronomical percentage, and you win football games with numbers like that.
That's right. And the thing that I noticed the most about him, Amari played with a confidence that I really hadn't seen him play with since he kind of broke onto the scene when he was drafted. It's something to be said about somebody believing in you, and I'm noticing he's got that fire. He feels like he's unstoppable. And they feed him the ball, and they have to keep doing that because it helps their game all around, because it helps Ezekiel Elliott in terms of not having 8 men in the box to stuff to run. And he got his share of touches, 6 carries, 121 yards, 1 TD. These guys, go ahead.
Ezekiel still no catches, though.
Well, Ezekiel actually had 5 receptions for 22 yards.
Okay.
So that wasn't bad.
That's an improvement.
That wasn't bad.
But it's still off the mark a little bit. I didn't see the game, so I can't say for sure, but just from a reaction to the numbers, that's still off the mark because it's only 22 yards, 5 catches for 22 yards. So it leads me to believe that he wasn't actually the target. It's just weird because you
check down probably check down
right.
Play.
Not that not that you're thinking you're going to get 10, 11, 12 yards to carry, but with him, if you're really throwing the ball at him, you should be getting 50 to 60 yards a game.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, you got to know where your bread is buttered, and obviously Dallas they plan on paying Dak, they plan on paying Amari and Ezekiel Elliott, and those are their money players, and they've got to run their big 3 to have any chance of really doing any damage. So right. Credit to them for doing that. Well, on the other side, Colt McCoy, journeyman Colt McCoy, was 24 for 38, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. That's never good. Adrian Peterson has kind of come back down the sides. He only had 35 yards on the ground with 12 carries. And in the air, they had Jordan Reed had 6 receptions for 75 yards, and then Vernon Davis had 73 yards and 1 TD in the air.
Okay, the next level for Cowboys, they figured out the Amari Cooper thing, at least temporarily. They got to figure out easy. So if you're Dak, for you to get to that next level, between Elliott and Amari, 15 to 20 targets per game.
They have to.
You do that.
They have to.
Yes, right. Do that. That's the next level of efficiency and progression in Dak Prescott's game. All right.
And this team has improved on both sides of the ball. Like, the defense is better. They got some aggressive defensive players that fly around the ball. They're quick. And so you're seeing them have an impact on the game. Dallas had issues stopping people in the past. So if you have yourself a serviceable offense with a solid defense, I mean, you can give yourself a shot on any given Sunday.
Right. The third and final game from Thanksgiving night was a division matchup in the NFC South. The Atlanta Falcons traveled to New Orleans, and of course, the Saints continue to win, 31-17 over the Falcons. Falcons now 4-7, and the Saints are 10-1.
Well, of course, like you said, it's a division game. It's a big game. Atlanta didn't come out on top, but let's just say the good news on the day is nobody gets fired. Drew Brees is
he didn't get anybody canned.
Yeah,
the defensive coordinator
nobody got fired.
The defensive coordinator got a chance to show up today.
Yeah, he did, and to say you held in the 31 points. That's impressive.
Yeah.
Compared to the 50-point blowouts they've been giving people for the last, 3-4 weeks or so. Drew Brees had 171 yards, which is kind of mediocre for him, but he still killed them with 4 touchdowns and threw 1 pick. Alvin Kamara had 14 carries for 89 yards. And then there were some new guys that we don't usually see people, in the offense like this, but Drew Brees was spreading the rock around, threw a touchdown pass to Dan Arnold. He threw a touchdown to Tommy Lee Lewis, threw a touchdown to Austin Carr, and he threw another touchdown to Keith Kirkwood. So, Drew Brees is showing his versatility and his ability to use any player in his system that they've set up there.
The Saints. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go.
So on the other side, Matt Ryan, he only had 2 touchdowns on 377 yards. Their rushing game was pretty much non-existent. I'm assuming it's because they were trying to come from behind. People abandon the running game on a regular basis when they're trying to catch up. But Julio Jones, he did his part, 11 receptions, 137 yards. But it just wasn't enough for them. And with their injuries, I think Atlanta is on the verge. I mean, they're at least one win away from it just being over for them completely.
Well, you're a lot more positive than I am because I'll write a team off in week 3. I'll tell you when you're done. You keep giving these teams chances. So the Saints have now won 10 in a row, and the Falcons are officially eliminated in the NFC South. So the Falcons' only chance now is a wild card.
I agree with you with teams being out of it. Like my team got like 3 wins. Yeah, we're out. I've already conceded just because of the way we're playing. When you really look at the numbers, when you're like 1 game behind the wild card or 2 games, and even if your record is 4-7, you still are kind of in the mix. That's why I want to give people a little bit of hope. But truth be told, they're not going to the Super Bowl.
If you get in the playoffs, anything can happen. But the hard part is getting into the playoffs. So, there's only two wild cards. So, if you don't win your division, you're leaving it up to chance. Sunday's action. The Jacksonville Jaguars take a loss at Buffalo, 24-21. Buffalo now 4-7. Jaguars 3-8. And that 3-8 record on the Jaguars just really, really looks horrible.
They're done. They're definitely
now
done.
You're ready to say somebody's done.
Yeah, it's over. Yeah. It's pretty much over. I mean, the bottom line is both of these teams are pretty much in the dumps, but for whatever reason, they just don't get along. And this game turned into a bit of a melee, which ended up in Leonard Fournette being thrown out of the game. There's a little bit of fisticuffs kind of going on. And after that happened, they just ended up losing the game to Josh Allen. I'm going to run through the numbers here for you. Josh Allen was 8 for 19, 160 yards, and 1 TD through the air, which is not impressive. But when you look at his numbers on the ground, he had 99 yards and 1 TD on 13 carries. Now, I would call him a scrambling quarterback. That's what I call him. He's not a pocket passer. Mm-hmm. But he used his legs to get the chance to win. Reuben Foster had 2 receptions, 94 yards, and 1 TD. On the other side, Blake Bortles, who lost his job today, we've been informed, he will not be starting next week for Jacksonville Jaguars, which means it's probably the beginning of the end for him. He only had 127 yards, 1 TD, and 2 interceptions. Leonard Fournette was having a great day. If he could have kept his head and stayed in the game, they definitely probably would have won this game. He had 18 carries, 95 yards, and 2 TDs. D. Westbrook in the air for Jacksonville had 1 TD on 44 yards. But Leonard Fournette, he came off the bench for the little fracas. And when they put him out of the game, he was fighting. His helmet came off. He was trying to fight with his helmet off. I don't know. I mean, he was ready for whatever, but it did not help his team. And as a result of his involvement in this altercation, he also has been suspended the next game that Jacksonville will be playing.
The Cleveland Browns at Cincinnati Bengals. Browns get another win, 35-20 over the Bengals. The Bengals slide continues. It's looking real bad for them at this point. 35-20. Browns go to 4-6. Bengals fall to 5-6.
Looking at this game, I really don't understand how long the Bengals are going to hang on to Marvin Lewis. I mean, with all due respect, he's had a long time to turn that thing around. And for whatever reason, I know they have to injury and so forth, but they just aren't getting it done. The Browns came in there and put it on them. Baker Mayfield had a career day. He had top 10 quarterback stats, 4 TDs, 258 yards. Nick Chubb had 84 yards on the ground and a TD. David Njoku had a touchdown. Antonio Callaway had a touchdown. Nick Chubb had a touchdown. They just spread it around. And on the other side, you had Jeff Driscoll that came in to a touchdown. Andy Dalton to a touchdown. I mean, they just had a tough day on the Cincinnati side. Joe Mixon had only 89 yards, and Tyler Boyd had only one touchdown. But the sub-story to this game was the interaction that happened between Baker Mayfield and Hugh Jackson. Hugh Jackson being the former coach, somehow got a job with the Bengals. I guess he takes the first job that's available to him. For whatever reason, Baker just really he took it personal, I think. I mean, he acted like, or he made it seem like, with some of his comments and so forth after the game, it's almost like Hugh Jackson was a turn coach, he was fake and all these things, and he was, coaching over with the Bengals. And at the end of the game, he tried to be classic, over, shake his hand, and maybe give him a hug, and Baker wasn't having it. He shook his hand and then just kind of moved on and talked to somebody else. So
yeah, I saw that interaction. That was messed up. He shook his hand, but he wouldn't get close to him. He shook his hand with a reach out.
Yeah. Yeah. And somebody brought up a point today about the fact that Baker actually transferred to a rival team when he was in college.
Right.
So they can't quite understand why he would be upset with Hugh Jackson. Maybe Hugh used to get on his case. I don't know what it is, but, in this business of football, you don't have any control about where you go. Like, if a job opens up, there are no rivals.
Exactly. You don't fire somebody in the middle of the season that's been your head coach and you think you're going to win and your division rival has an opportunity to sign him. That's the number one reason why you don't fire people like that.
Right. And they're making it seem like he quit, or Baker's making it seem like Hugh quit and then just went and joined another team. And
think about this scenario.
Whatever.
Let's say they fired Hugh Jackson, and they went on a winning streak and got themselves into contention.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and now they're in December, fighting for a playoff berth. Right there, let's say a game out, and then they got to go play, I don't know, the Ravens, who decide they're going to go hire Hugh Jackson for assistant to the assistant head coach. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. That's why you don't do that. You don't let a guy out there that has your secrets.
No, they do it all the time. Watch Belichick. He hasn't done it this year yet, but every single year, close to the playoffs, there's some guy floating around that played for a rival team that he's going to face in the playoffs. He'll scoop him up.
He will.
And even put him on the field.
Yeah.
Because he makes him part of the game plan. Now he knows what you like to do. It's very interesting. Watch him. Every year he does that.
Yep.
Last year he picked up Joey Porter. I don't know if you remember that.
Yep.
Yeah. Every year he does that. He'll pick a guy and be like, well, why did you do that? There's a method to the madness.
Speaking of the Patriots, they went to MetLife to play the Jets. And of course, they come out with the win, 27-13. I didn't actually see this game at all. The Patriots
Hmm.
went to improve to 8-3, and the Jets fall to 3-8.
Okay, so this game is exactly what it is. I mean, nobody I think expected the the Jets to win, and it played out that way. Tom Brady was 20 for 31, 283 yards, two touchdowns. They went to an old school smash mouth football style with New England. They pounded the ball on the ground. Tony Michelle carried the ball 21 times for 133 yards and a touchdown. Cordell Patterson, he got in, had 5 carries. James White had 9 carries. They spread the ball around through the air. Julian Edelman had a touchdown, and Rob Gronkowski, who is now back supposedly to 100%. I'm assuming they're getting him primed for the playoffs. He had a touchdown also. On the other side, I'm not sure what the Jets are doing. Josh McDowell had 276 yards, 1 TD, interception. The running game was all over the place. They spread out the handoffs amongst Coel, McGuire, and McNown carried the ball a couple of times. And there really wasn't too much to say about the receiving core for the Jets besides Jermaine Kearse having 66 yards and 1 TD.
The Giants played the Eagles in Philadelphia. Eagles get the win, 25-22. Giants now 3-8. Eagles now 5-6. The Giants had a chance in this game, but they weren't able to get it done.
Did you get a chance to see this game?
I did see the game. Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna get the scores real quick on the stats, and then I'm gonna defer to you so you can tell us what you kind of saw. I just know that one of my really good friends is a Giants fan, and she texted me said, "Man, we're looking great. They won 2 touchdowns. I'm so happy." It was just the first half, and when I saw what happened at the end of the game, I didn't hear anything else from her again. So I'm assuming she probably was in tears. Carson Wentz in the winning effort was 20 for 28, 236 yards, 1 TD. They said that he struggled a little bit during the course of the day, but managed to make some plays toward the end of the game after the defense kind of kept things close. Josh Adams, their rookie running back, had 22 carries, 84 yards, and 1 touchdown. Zach Ertz, steady per usual, had 7 receptions, 91 yards, 1 TD. Eli Manning threw the ball 37 times. He completed 26 passes at 297 yards, 1 TD, 1 interception. Saquon Barkley had 13 carries for 101 yards and 1 TD. And Odell Beckham had 5 receptions for 85 yards. Saquon Barkley in the air had 7 receptions, 41 yards, and a TD. What I do know about the Giants is that listen, Eli looked really good in the first half. Come second half, it wasn't so good. For whatever reason, Saquon Barkley was on fire in the first half. Second half, I think he had like 5 touches. The coach said that, they try to, in certain games, try to give Saquon a little bit of a break. And he claims that it didn't affect the fact that they lost the game. Odell had a mediocre day. He let it be known, in the way I thought, that he wasn't really in the game plan for the day. He didn't understand why they didn't try to target the secondary of Philadelphia because they had 4 cornerbacks out. But for whatever reason, he said you can ask the coach, why that happened.
Okay. Well, the Giants did look really good in the first half. It would look like they were totally clicking on offense with and Eli looked much improved. I think it has a lot to do with the weapons. I think Saquon Barkley, and as we were talking about Ezekiel Elliott before, that's how you're supposed to use Saquon. That's how you're supposed to use Ezekiel Elliott, like the Giants are using Saquon Barkley. I'm not sure about the number of targets, but I'm assuming it was close to 10 because he had 5 or 6 catches.
Yes, I can tell you about the target in a second. Go ahead.
Yeah, so you could see the efficiency in the offense. Odell was in. They just looked they looked like they were going to win the game. You felt really comfortable that they were going to win the game. The Eagles were going to lose, and there was going to be further the traffic jam in the NFC East was going to get a little bit tighter. So this turns out to be a really, really horrible loss for the Giants because this was a opportunity to get back into the race in this division, especially with the Alex Smith injury and the Redskins coming back to the pack. These other three teams had to have a chance to step up, and the only one that's really done it is the Cowboys. This game between the Giants and Eagles, I feel less like the Eagles won and more like the Giants lost. You know what I mean? I feel like neither of them really deserved to win and really took a step forward, but somebody had to come out with a win. What was the targets for Saquon?
8. Yeah, 8 targets in the air.
8 targets. That's it. That's it.
That was it. And he had a little over 10 touches on the ground. So, that's not going to get it done for you. You got to feed your horses, especially when you gashing the opposing team.
Right.
You wait till they just unequivocally stop it before you stop going to what was working.
Right. Especially if you have a little bit of a lead, you should definitely, and you have a running back like that, you should definitely be running. We're just going to touch on this one fast. The 49ers and the Bucks. Buccaneers get the win 27-9. Bucks 4-7, 49ers 2-9.
The only thing you need to know about this game is that Famous Jameis is back, and he plays games with us, but he had 312 yards and 2 TDs. That was the main thing you need to know. Mike Evans had 6 receptions for 116 yards. The coach said that he was impressed with Jameis. He's been working on his game, and he says that if he can continue to be consistent and not make mistakes like his last game, he should be a very good quarterback in this league. And to give Jameis credit, the fact that he was benched the way he was, even though it was his fault, a lot of guys unravel, they, fall apart, they get upset, they say things in the media, end up being banished. And he sat there, and I guess he took his beat, and he came back, and he showed up this week. And, it was San Francisco, but in his case, a win's a win. They're trying to figure out who their quarterback's going to be for next year. And so I guess he's trying to hold his spot. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, he better. He's a gamer. He's not, to me, his biggest weakness is that he is reckless. So all of those other things, the leadership, at least in the clubhouse, his attitude in the game, all of those things are fantastic. It's just that he is absolutely reckless when it comes to protecting the ball and just, doing the little things that's required to win the game. But it's an understandable dilemma because when you have that much physical talent, you kind of think you can get away with stuff.
You just got to understand that each game is different, and less sometimes is more. If you can throw no picks, have no turnovers, and just have 2 touchdowns instead of trying to throw for 5 touchdowns, that's just as good.
Right.
You can win like that.
You will
so
win.
If he can understand that, like, live to see another day, let my defense help me out, stop throwing the ball, places out. It's not Tecmo Bowl. It's not Madden. So, if he can be a little bit smarter, it'll be good.
Right. And one of the best games of the weekend and best matchups between two teams fighting for the playoffs in the NFC, the Seattle Seahawks get a win on the road in Carolina, 30-27. The Seahawks improved to 6-5, and the Panthers fall to 6-5. And I believe this may be the Panthers' 3rd consecutive loss. Yes,
and that's not good for the division. Right now there's no way they can win the division, so it's all wild card. This is what they're looking at, trying to get into the playoffs.
And since you even mentioned that, this makes this game even bigger because both teams are competing for the wild card.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. And Russell Wilson, man, he's ready for the smoke. I got to give it to him. He is hanging in there, 22 for 31 with the stat line through the air, had 339 yards and 2 touchdowns. On the ground, a lot. Chris Carson had 55 yards and a touchdown. But in the air, they had Tyler Lockett step up with 107 yards and 1 TD, and David Moore, who's kind of emerged from nowhere with 103 yards and 1 TD, and that's very impressive. On the other side, Cam Newton had a day, 25 for 30, 2 TDs, 1 interception. I've heard people questioning his decision making on certain key plays during the game, but that appeared to play a role, that interception that he threw. But your favorite running back, I'm starting to believe like you're believing, Joey. I mean, I thought you were kind of going out on a limb there, but this guy, Christian McCaffrey, had 17 carries, 125 yards, and 1 TD. And not just that, he went to the air with 11 receptions on 11 targets, 112 yards, 1 TD.
I told you, Marshall Faulk part 2.
Yeah, that guy, he's for real. If he can just stay away from running between the tackles and just catch the ball out in the flat one-on-one coverage, nobody can stop him.
Right. And like I said, I think he's actually built well enough and has the experience to run between the tackles. It's just a matter of, do you want to put those additional hits on him? That's really what it comes down to, because he can handle it. He can handle it. That's an every down feature back. For real. For real.
Now, the one thing I'll say about him, he reminds me a little bit as far as stature goes. You remember Warwick Dunn?
Yeah.
Warwick Dunn was a little guy that ran between the tackles, and that's very rare.
Yeah.
But Warwick would run low to the ground, so you wouldn't get a straight-up lick on him. In this day and age, I would put McCaffrey in space.
Yeah.
And I would not just run in between the tackles like that and get him broken up, because he's definitely a weapon.
One of the things about McCaffrey that boggles me is typically you don't see a guy like this be like a second-generation player and be a running back. Mm-hmm. Because it takes so much punishment. And his dad was a receiver. Right. You also see that with Ingram for New Orleans, but it's just like, you would think that he would have been steered away from running back at an early age. But no, he takes that punishment, and he really doesn't need to. He doesn't really need to check probably. It's, it's for the love. So when you see that, that's why he's going to get better. And I think going down the road, he's going to be in the conversation with Gurley, with Fournette, and a couple others as, top 5 running backs in this game.
He's got to be. With those types of numbers every week, and you got North Turner calling the plays. I mean, and the thing was, when they got rid of the other running backs that they brought in to run between the tackles and opted just to give McCaffrey the ball, that told me a lot.
Yeah.
They were like, we don't even need that other guy. We're good.
Right. Moving on, the Oakland Raiders visit the Baltimore Ravens. Ravens get the win, 34-17. Ravens go to 6-5. Ravens to 6-5. Raiders to 2-9.
Well, we're going to get into the Baltimore Ravens scores because I refuse to read the stats for the Raiders because it's ridiculous. If I read it to you, you'd be disappointed and maybe annoyed. But I am very impressed. Lamar Jackson came out, and he had his second win in a row. He was 14 for 25 in the air, 178 yards, and 1 TD, and had 2 interceptions. I heard some pundits talking about how people didn't think Lamar Jackson could throw the ball. This week, he proved he can throw the ball. The numbers, here, he didn't have 400 yards in the air, but he obviously has that in his game. Yesterday, ran a little bit less. They only gave him 11 carries, but he still had 71 yards and a touchdown. They had their rookie, Gus Edwards, who's a north-south runner. They put him in the game. He had 118 yards, and he didn't have any TDs. But that was a very big win for him today. If Harbaugh is smart, because he has not made his mind up who he wants to be, for a starting quarterback next week, if he's smart, this guy might save his job.
Yeah.
And leave him in the game and see what happens. Because the word on the street is that people really like Lamar Jackson. They say he's very humble in the locker room. Even guys that are Flacco guys in the locker room like this guy a lot. And when you have that type of camaraderie and they're supporting this kid, sky's the limit. I mean, Joe Flacco obviously he was struggling most of the season anyway, so they might need to just give this guy the ball, let him do what he knows how to do.
Well, you know how I feel about it. The addition of 50 to 60 yards on the ground that he gives you is more impactful on winning than 50 or 60 yards through the air that you might get from Flacco.
Right.
All right. Ravens were over 200 yards rushing for the second straight week. First time they've done that in years. All right. And that's what a quarterback like this gives you. When you can tack on that extra 50, 60 yards rushing and you control his pass attempts to where you don't lose the benefits of him running by him turning the ball over throwing. You know what I like to say? It's an easy 8 wins that way. It's an easy 8 wins that way. You can't be the best rushing team in the NFL and be losing. That's just not how it works. And when you add a 50 or 60 yard per game runner from the quarterback position to the 100 or so that you get regularly from your running backs, you're going to be in a position to win, especially if your defense stands up.
Yep.
The Cardinals travel to L.A. to face the Chargers. Chargers get the win, 45-10. Chargers really in solid position. They're now 8-3. Cardinals 2-9.
All right, we're going to hit this real quick. Phillip Rivers had 3 TDs, 259 yards. Melvin Gordon had 10 carries, 61 yards, and 2 TDs. Keenan Allen had 7 receptions, 72 yards, and 1 TD. Austin Eckler had 10 receptions and 68 yards. The story for the Chargers, they kind of won the battle, but I'm not sure if they're going to win the war at the end of the day. Melvin Gordon was already gimpy coming into the game. He begged the trainers and the coaching staff to allow him to play instead of sitting him out. Even that was the move, but he saved him. And he played and now has I think it's a grade 2 MCL sprain, which means it's a partial tear. So then they said he'll be out for a few weeks. They hope that he can be back by the end of the season and be ready for the playoffs. But that's a huge blow. I do think that they, with Phillip Rivers, they might be able to do some damage and pull through. But losing Gordon was not good for their hopes at trying to beat a team like the Chiefs or any other contending team on the other side. As far as the Cardinals go, Josh Rosen, on 19 attempts, he had 12 completions, 1 TD and 1 interception. On the ground, David Johnson had 63 yards, and that was it. And then again, we talked about this before. Larry Fitzgerald, he only had 2 receptions on 2 targets, 30 yards, and a touchdown. And, I don't think they were going to probably be able to put up 45, points or more to try to beat the Chargers. But I definitely feel like if they targeted Fitzgerald better, he probably would have.
Well, if you're behind, you should be throwing, no?
What's that?
If you're behind, you should be throwing.
Totally agree.
He should have more. When you lose like that, 45-10, if he plays the whole game, he should have 20 targets.
Yeah. And they probably were getting blown out the whole game.
Right.
When you taking that L from the beginning, you have to air it out.
Right.
To rock.
Right. You're supposed to throw it at him every series.
Man, I'm just looking at the game here. Houston's Lamar Miller just had a 97-yard touchdown run.
You know what?
Very impressive.
I think you might have just told us something that's about to happen because we had a couple seconds delay, and here he goes.
Just took off, 97 yards.
That's why I got to be careful with y'all when I'm watching a game. I can't look at the phone or nothing because everybody assumes we're all on the same. No, not anymore.
Nah.
Nope.
Every seed is different.
Every seed is different.
Yeah, that's an impressive run right there. So
the Texans take the lead now, 20-10. Tennessee got off to a good start, but here comes Houston roaring right back.
Tennessee, from what I've seen, they're not built, to kind of come from behind.
Oh
So,
no, they're not built
granted,
to
it's only
score.
a 10-point lead. I mean, it's not looking good at the moment.
Well, you got to hold them, and you got to stop Lamar Miller now because he's going to be getting a lot of carries. He might get up to
Oh yeah,
150 yards today.
yeah, oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. He's looking good.
The Steelers take a loss in Denver. Broncos with the W, 24-17. Broncos go to 5-6. Steelers fall to 7-3.
The bottom line on this, the Steelers are having issues winning the game on the road. And when they're not at home, you start to see these little chinks in their armor. And in this case, I mean, they didn't get blown out, but they definitely didn't play up to the potential that we would expect from them. In the winning effort, Case Keenum, he was 15 for 28, got 197 yards and 2 TDs. Philip Lindsay had 110 yards on the ground and a touchdown. And Emmanuel Sanders had 86 yards and a touchdown in the air. In the losing effort, man, Ben Roethlisberger was slinging the ball all over the field. He had 56 attempts. I hope he put some ice on his arm because that'll do you in. He had 41 completions, 462 yards, 1 TD, and 2 interceptions. James Conner, he was quiet also. He only had 53 yards on the ground. But Juju Smith-Schuster, man, this guy is really pumping his game up to the next level. Had 13 receptions on 17 targets, 189 yards, and 1 TD. I mean, you get 17 targets, you should be able to put up 500 points a game.
There you go. That's how you know that the numbers that I'm talking about for these other players is not crazy.
No, it's not. It's not. What that tells me is that that's where the mismatch was, and he exploited it. I mean, they didn't get the win, but
right.
They obviously got some good results from feeding him the ball.
Right. It's a big win for the Broncos because it keeps them alive. That 7th loss would have been almost the end for them.
Oh yeah.
5-6 at this point puts you in a good position because you still have that outside shot of getting to 9 and 10 or 10 wins, which is what you're going to need to make it into the playoffs. So Broncos still holding on.
Yep.
In Indianapolis, the Miami Dolphins lose to the Colts, 27-24. Colts now 6-5. Dolphins 5-6.
Well, Andrew Luck is still on fire. 30 for 37, passing 343 yards, 3 TDs, and 2 interceptions. Marlon Mack had 15 carries for 85 yards, and in the air for the Colts, T.Y. Hilton had 7 receptions for 125 yards. The other person of note, or player of note for this game was Eric Ebron, former Detroit Lion, who we wrote off. At tight end, had 5 receptions, 45 yards, and 2 TDs. They're talking about him being a top 10 tight end this year, based upon the stats.
I mean, okay, all right. So let me stop for 1 second and ask you this.
Yes.
I know you've denied this at previous occasions. Would Eric Ebron be a help to the Detroit Lions today, this season?
Yes. He'd be a help now with the injuries that we had.
Yeah.
But their thought process was he was dropping balls on the ground, and they thought that they could open up everybody else's game by letting him go.
Right.
And now, when you look at the situation, you let Golden Tate go. Williams got hurt. Your running back is hurt. They don't have anybody to throw the ball to.
Right.
If you look at Indianapolis, they had a bunch of injuries too. But what they did was they went to this huge set where they had 2 tight ends in the game at a time. And so they peppered their tight ends with passes to their receivers. They didn't have it. And so now you see them, they're 6-5. And we're whatever we are, Detroit. It's not impressive. But
right.
I guess and
we also need
we need to get Eric Ebron.
We need to get O'Neal back on too, so I can rub this in his face because he laughed at me when I told him that the Colts were on the way up. That was about 4 weeks ago.
I laughed too. I laughed.
Well, now they're 6-5.
Yeah, you were right.
I like to hear that. I like to hear that. Thank
No,
you.
you're right. It's okay. We we have opinions and so forth, but nobody's perfect. And you went out on a limb, and that the McCaffrey thing is held up. The Indianapolis Colts and Andrew Luck surging, that's held up. I mean, you looking good.
And don't forget about my Super Bowl pick of the Bears. So we'll see how that turns out.
Nah, I mean,
I'm
you're
rolling.
not there yet. If they go to the Super Bowl, I'm gonna take a week off.
Watch. I already told you the formula. Make the Saints punt 3 times and you can win. But you got to score every time, almost. So anyway,
that's hard.
So
let me hit the Dolphins real quick because I didn't say anything about this. Ryan Tannehill had 2 TDs, 204 yards. Frank Gore had 67 yards, and that was pretty much it for them. Kenyon Drake had 1 TD in the air on 65 yards. So they're pretty much they're 5-6. Technically, they're still kind of. They have not shown me anything to make me think that they're really nothing more than pretenders instead of contenders.
The second matchup in the NFC North was a huge matchup. It was the Green Bay Packers' really last opportunity to stay in the race. Well, maybe not their last opportunity, but they do have a tie. So 4-6-1. They only have 5 games remaining, and at this point, you're going to need 4 out of 5 to stay to have a chance. And the Vikings get the win.
Say according to the schedule that plays out, the whole team they have to play is your Super Bowl pick. The Chicago Bears. That's the game that most people assume they will lose. So to your point, yeah, they got to win out and maybe only lose the game.
Right. But the Vikings, though, with a big win, solidifying their position, going to 6-4-1. They win 24-17 over the Packers. Packers now 4-6-1.
Yeah. And Kirk Cousins did a good job. This is at 342 yards, 3 TDs. He was efficient with the ball, didn't have any interceptions, only took 2 sacks. On the ground, Minnesota really didn't do much at all, even though they tried to run the ball 21 times. They didn't do any damage. But in the air, Adam Thielen had 8 receptions, 125 yards, 1 TD on 9 targets. Stephon Diggs had 8 receptions on 11 targets, 77 yards, and 1 TD. So they did a good job holding off Green Bay. On the other side, Aaron Rodgers struggled at times. Times he missed some throws. He only had 198 yards in the air and 1 TD in the air on 28 attempts, which this is very odd to me. This is like a Dak Prescott line right here. Kind of weird. But they didn't do what they need to do to get a win, even though Aaron Jones had 72 yards and a TD on the ground, and Devontae Adams had 69 yards in the air and 1 TD. So they're on the bubble. They're on the bubble with that wild card thing because it's very competitive. And right now, forget what the numbers say or what your actual whatever your record is. It boils down to how well you're playing right now, and Green Bay is not playing that well.
Yeah, it's been downhill for them ever since week 1. The injury to Aaron Rodgers, they've been they've been struggling. It's like they've been playing uphill since that point. Yep. So that's all of the NFL action for the week. Please leave a comment below if you're checking us out on YouTube, and also make sure that you subscribe and like the video on YouTube. Share it with your friends, of course. Follow us on Twitter at Council Talk and on Instagram at Council_Sports Talk 2 Joes. Monday Night Football. Can you see what the score is right now?
I can't tell you what the score is at the moment. The Titans it's the same score we saw before. Titans are losing by 11, 21-10, or to the hands of the Texans. So
okay,
we're getting close to halftime. 5 minutes left in the second quarter.
Okay. Anything changing about your Super Bowl pick? I'm still with the Bears. You still with yours?
I lean toward the Rams because I think their defense is going to get better toward the playoffs. But if things stay as is, I'm picking the Saints.
All right.
I'm picking the Saints.
The standings in the AFC currently: New England on top in the AFC East at 8-3, Dolphins in second place at 5-6. In the AFC North, Pittsburgh 7-3-1. Baltimore is on their heels at 6-5. That's a game and a half difference due to the tie. Bengals 5-6, Browns 4-6. Bengals could finish in last place. In the AFC South, Texans at 7-3. The Colts 6-5, Titans 5-5, and of course, Texans and the Titans are playing right now. Jacksonville might be done at 3-8. In the West,
over.
Yeah, it's over. In the West, the Chiefs 9-2. The Chargers are only one game behind. They're at 8-3, and the Broncos are 5-6. NFC East, Cowboys 6-5, tied with the Redskins 6-5. I believe the Cowboys have the tiebreaker. 3-1 in the division, 5-3 in the conference is the Cowboys. So, I expect for them to continue to hold on there. The only threat potentially, if they take a slip for a week or two, and the Eagles win when the Cowboys lose, then there might be a chance that we're going into final week with those teams sitting on 8 or 9 wins. In the NFC North, Bears 8-3, Vikings 6-4. Everyone else is done. Saints 10-1 in the NFC South. Panthers right behind them. Well, not right behind them, but in second place at 6-5. Falcons and Bucks both 4-7. Rams 10-1 in the NFC West. Seahawks in second place at 6-5, and the Seahawks are really holding position in terms of the wild card.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. If the season were to end today, Seahawks would be the second wild card. Redskins would be the first. No, Vikings would be the first wild card. Redskins would be the second wild card, and they're actually in a tie with the Seahawks.
Yeah. Real quick, not to cut you off, but there's a few injuries that we didn't touch on. Andy Dalton is out. He's going to be on injured reserve. He had a thumb injury. Doyle, the tight end for the Colts, has a kidney injury. That sounds painful. He's headed to the IR. The tight end for the Broncos, he went out, broken ribs, out for the season. It's a mess. And, of course, we talked about Gordon, the Chargers running back, is out with the sprained MCL. And then also the Lions lose their wide receiver, Jones. He's on the injured reserve list now with a knee injury.